Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Richie. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a specific part of the pandemic that is not talked about. Children. We know very little about them. It's quite intrusive research, and so this is a little sociology to understand what it is they're doing and why. So put your hands up here if you can possibly play along. If any of you watch something while you eat. Okay, a few of you. Do you watch somebody cook or make food or eat food while you eat? Some of you do. And does anybody here watch those videos when you're not hungry at all, just to make yourself feel full, for example? Yep, there we go. We do that all the time. So what I'm interested in is basically how technology is no longer the extensions of ourselves, but they become embodiments which we can come into and feel fulfilled. We can become something else. We can become full, and often than not, we become fooled by these depictions. I'm interested during COVID-19 here to look at children and how their situation differs really from us, where we're hungry in the bed when we want something. And so my literature review identified three main things from pandemic research. Number one, there is high interpersonal violence. In nearly all sorts of families, cross-culturally, this is just one of them, there's arguments, there's breakdowns in family. Single mothers, or probably compared to single fathers and other parents, the most burdened in terms of productivity and work. So there's no time for quality childcare. And finally, families are being more unstable, unstable. They're breaking apart, they're moving between houses, global lockdowns, deaths. Where does this lead the child? To the only home they know, the internet, the metaverse, their friends online. There's no time for the children. So who will feed the children, per se? Who's going to do that? So what I did was I actually looked at digital usage with youth. And you can see there, right there, those stats here. Pre-pandemic to during the pandemic, it increased, and this is just only within the United States for a few states. That's just a sample. There's actually other research that shows that globally this is increasing too. The most important thing, though, is I'm not looking at how the technology is appetizing for you to eat. I'm looking at what kind of appetite, what specific needs does the technology elucidate? What does it bring? Elicit, that's the word for it. What does it bring? And before this, 2009, Kafai and colleagues actually looked at kids who come online 10 years before, came in not for entertainment or for fun, but they came in to get something they could not have in real life. That was impossible. 10 years ago before now, during the pandemic, where socialization is all digital, kids were already using technology to get something they couldn't do in real life. So what did I do? I went on a big metaverse, or a virtual world, which is popular with children during the pandemic, and I looked at three categories. Number one was differentiation. How did children express themselves? How did they become more individualist in their own ways? Expression. And this is actually part of Bowen's family systems theory, which is actually quite reliable in terms of differentiation for reducing trait anxiety and social anxiety. This is very, very important because right now there's a second pandemic of stress and anxiety for children during the pandemic. Number two, I looked at connectedness. I wanted to understand within 5 of the most popular games on this platform for the children, what is the thing that's most marketed for the kids? What is the thing that's most promoted on these web pages? Was it community connectedness, parks, malls, schools? Or was it more intimate places like family homes and lounges? And finally, I looked at family. I looked at whether or not youth seek connections and depictions of familyhood, mother, children, father, or they wanted to get away from it. So this is what I found in differentiation. I looked at basically female-type identity markers, male-type, so these are like items that are masculine, feminine. I looked at self-definition creation, so things that promote, be yourself, this is your time. I looked at rebellion, which was found quite popular as well before in Kafai et al. Study, that kids wanted to do something that goes against their constraints of real life. And there's an outlier here in a game called Royal High, and we'll talk about that later, at 11 differentiation markers of female items. And this is what I argued it as. I said that actually there's more female-type items in differentiation because right now, especially during the pandemic, there's a media convergence between Roblox, a virtual world, and real-life cultural capitals. Previous research has found that boy gamers actually use the games to express masculine in their gameplay. So violence, dominance, ranking, whereas girls used it to express the know-hows of cultural information. That's why this outlier is here, as I proposed. Number 2, connectedness. The most present type of community was communal spaces. They preferred places that are big, that are parks. And in sociology, we call these third places. Not home, not work, but in between. Cafes, Starbucks, gyms, fitness, for example. Once again, Royal High, 6, that's an outlier. Why is that? So I propose this. Even though Royal High is a fantastical kind of game, between all the games that I looked at, the 5 games, Royal High had third spaces that were most familiar. They had high schools. They had things that kids before in this time of, lockdowns and they can't go outside. This is something that they're most familiar with. So over fantasy, familiarity was higher. I looked at family markers. Father, mother, child, daughters, etc. These depictions on the video game pages, 0. None. What came out and stood out to me was non-human members of the family. So for example, pets. And this is actually quite indicative of a growing shift in that family is now defined by person-based definitions. It's no longer that, echoing Charlie in 2004, that marriage is the place of the family home. Connection is no longer the place of the family home now. Connection is person-defined. It's more than the family home. And so where does this leave us? Let me take you through a few propositions here. So we talked about third places, right? Third spaces that are social in between. This is what the digital world is. It's what it offers. The real world, as we know, especially in the pandemic, is unfulfilling. It's stressful. It's anxiety burdened, right? Digital worlds offer a respite for us. It gives us a chance to go in there and get something that we're repressed, that we're hungry for. But not all benefits are transferable. No matter how long you spend on these digital worlds, no matter how much connectedness you get, at the end of the day, when the computer shuts down, when the electricity bill goes off, etc., you're left in your own room with your own dwelling responsibilities. It doesn't go away. And so it leaves the self in a degree of otherness. It leaves yourself in the shadow of who you want to be. And within these third spaces, they become perpetual third persons to their self that they want to live the most. And this is what I call the digitalized other, which I don't have the time to get into, but we can talk about that if you want afterwards. And this is concerning particularly because during the pandemic, there are big flames, big fumes of anxiety and troubles and difficulties. And we should ask the question, whether the mode of outliving these flames online, is it sustainable? How far does it help a person? Will it ever integrate a person back into their idealized version and their real version? Because perhaps the fumes that are blocking the necessity for us to feel supported, valued, and loved, Desai et al. 2019, these fumes perhaps are not from world events, the clash of world troubles, but more so, the clash between the two worlds of the self wanting to live and the self having to live. Is it worth it? We'll find out. So thank you. That's my research.
Okay, so we'll move to 2 minutes of Q&As. If the adjudicators have any questions.
Do you want me to film the question?
Oh no, you can stop it because it'll just be silent.
Okay.